Are you looking to take your shrimp tank to the next level? While red cherry shrimp and other Neocaridina varieties make fantastic choices, why not venture into the extraordinary world of the bamboo shrimp for a truly unique aquarium experience? This isn't your average shrimp, that's for sure, so let's dive into the captivating details of this extraordinary creature. Bamboo shrimp, which are commonly referred to as wood shrimp, rock shrimp, fan shrimp, flower shrimp, Singapore shrimp, and Singapore flower shrimp, are a freshwater species that are native to Southeast Asia. They can be found in places like Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Okinawa, Malaysia, and Thailand. Through the aquarium trade, they've been introduced to most parts of the world. This species prefers fast-flowing shallow streams and rivers. They're usually seen clinging to rocks, boulders, driftwood, and plants, facing the currents where they can catch plenty of passing edible particles with their fan-like hands. Bamboo shrimp are medium-sized shrimp that can grow to about 3 to 4 inches in size when fully mature. They come in a variety of colors like red, green, creamy white, and blue. The most common color you'll see are ones that come in various shades of brown. In addition, they also have a large, creamy, yellow-brown racing stripe that runs down the length of their back. The most interesting characteristic of these shrimp are their fan-like hands. They serve as mini nets that can be used to easily grab small edible particles and organisms from the water. Hence why they should be kept in a tank with moderate to high flow. Bamboo shrimp typically have a lifespan of 1 to 4 years, but with proper conditions, there's always a chance they could live up to 6 years. When it comes to a bamboo shrimp's tank, the bigger, the better. The shrimp pull food from the water column, which means there has to be enough water volume in the tank to support their needs. A 20-gallon long is a good size to support one bamboo shrimp. Personally, I've kept a single bamboo shrimp in a 15-gallon and a 20-gallon long, both with a moderate to high water flow. Keep in mind that bamboo shrimp require high oxygen water. In this 55-gallon tank of mine, I've got 6 bamboo shrimp. On one end of the tank, I have a Seachem Tidal 75 hang on the back filter, and on the other end, I have a Hygger Wave Maker which is set at 60% power. Both of these products ensure that I have a constant flow throughout the tank and also keep the water well oxygenated. When setting up a tank for these shrimp, on top of making sure you have a good flow, you'll also want to have rocks, driftwood, and plants for them to climb up on and perch themselves. This will make it easier for them to grab particles that are flowing around them. A lid is also a good thing to have, as these shrimp sometimes will climb out of the tank to explore their surroundings. Bamboo shrimp do well in an established tank. They can thrive in a tank that has a temperature range of 70 degrees to 88 degrees Fahrenheit. This equates to 22 degrees to 28 degrees Celsius. Their tank can have a pH of 6.0 to 8.0, GH of 6 to 8, KH of 2 to 6, and TDS of 100 to 300. These shrimp are highly sensitive, so ammonia and nitrite levels need to be at a constant 0. Before you introduce new shrimp to your tank, drip acclimate them for at least 3 hours so that they get used to your water parameters. With this being said, it's not uncommon for bamboo shrimp to die soon after being added to a tank. The fact that these shrimp are usually wild-caught could be one of the reasons why they don't make it. It could be a shift in water parameters or transportation from the supplier to the store to your tank. Care must be taken when carrying out partial water changes, as these shrimp are sensitive to fluctuating water temperatures. Try to ensure that the new dechlorinated water closely matches the temperature of the water in your tank. I keep a reservoir of heated dechlorinated water that matches all of my tanks. When it comes time for a water change, I fill my tanks from the reservoir instead of straight from the tap. When doing a water change, replace anywhere from 10 to 20% of the water, because any more than that could potentially stress your shrimp. One thing I'd like to advise you is to not keep your tank crystal clean by using fine filter pads. This overfiltration can remove all floating particles within the water column, and you could potentially starve your shrimp. Bamboo shrimp are gentle giants. They're very peaceful, calm, and do not bother their tank mates. They're relatively active for shrimp, and you'll often see them repositioning themselves on rocks, plants, or the driftwood to find the optimal place to catch floating particles. Sometimes you'll even see them scavenging around the substrate using their fans to pick up any organic matter. Bamboo shrimp can be shy at first when they're introduced to a tank, but give it some time and you'll see them slowly becoming bolder each day. These shrimp also tend to be more active at night. Bamboo shrimp can be kept by themselves, however, they prefer to live in groups. Although they do not interact with each other, being in a group makes them feel more comfortable and less stressed. One fun thing you may often see is that these shrimp will form a line during feeding time. If it gets too crowded, they'll simply move and make place for the other instead of chasing it away. Bamboo shrimp are detritivores, which means they feed on various organic particles that float in the water, microorganisms, detritus, and floating green algae. They trap these food particles with their fans and transfer them to their mouths, hence why it's important to have a really good flow in the tank. From time to time, you'll see them scavenging the substrate for food as well. As a word of caution, if you see them constantly scavenging the substrate for food, you may not have enough of a flow in your tank or food particles in the water column. Constantly scavenging the substrate can lead to their fans being damaged, and they may not recover until their next molt. Unlike many other types of shrimp species, bamboo shrimp do not usually exhibit omnivorous feeding habits, which means you may not see them eating dead tank mates, certain types of pellet foods, or even their own molt. In order for them to thrive, providing them with powdered food is the best way to go. When it comes to feeding my bamboo shrimp, I provide them with a few varieties of powdered food. The first two are fish flakes and algae wafers that I ground up and mix together. You can use a mortar or coffee grinder to achieve this. I also provide them with Bacteria and Shrimp Baby, which are micropowdered foods. If you'd like to learn more about the various foods I feed my shrimp, check out the video in the top right corner. When I do maintenance on my tank, I'll run my hands through the plants to shake off any debris that might have collected on them. I even stir up the substrate a bit and brush off the hardscape. All of this introduces more organic particles into the water column for them to feed on. When I clean my filter out, small particles also get released back into the tank for them to eat. You want to ensure you feed your shrimp a proper diet, especially foods that contain a good amount of calcium, as this mineral is key to helping them molt successfully. Your shrimp can also be fed small quantities twice a day, but the key takeaway is not to overfeed them. One thing to note is that bamboo shrimp do not eat any types of algae that grow on the surfaces of your tank. They prefer floating green algae that they can pick from the water column. Some shrimp breeders also advise keeping a few amano shrimp in the tank with them. The reason is that when female amanos give birth, they release planktonic larvae into the water column, which the bamboo shrimp will happily consume. However, bamboo shrimp will not eat newly hatched Neocaridina or Caridina baby shrimp. Unlike the amano's planktonic larvae, these shrimp are significantly larger. Unlike most dwarf shrimp, it's very easy to tell the difference between male and female bamboo shrimp once they're about 2 inches in length. First, the body size of males is larger than females. Second, males have a significantly larger first pair of legs. Older males will have significantly bulky forelegs similar to that of vampire shrimp. Female shrimp, on the other hand, have all sets of their walking legs about the same in size. Bamboo shrimp reproduce in a similar manner to amano shrimp. This means that unlike the dwarf shrimp species most of us are so used to, they don't produce miniature versions of the adults. Instead, their fry go through a larval phase, which then needs to be kept in brackish water temporarily or they won't survive. Breeding bamboo shrimp is extremely difficult, hence why almost all the ones you purchase are usually wild caught. However, if you are willing to try your luck at breeding these shrimp, feel free to give it a shot, and if you are successful, let me know. Bamboo shrimp tend to molt roughly every 4 to 8 weeks. This is where they shed their old exoskeleton and grow a new one. Molting is necessary for these shrimp to grow. However, it can be stressful for them and deadly if not done correctly. As I mentioned earlier, providing these shrimp with a good amount of calcium in the diet is crucial to helping them molt properly. Right before and after these shrimp molt, they stop eating and hide until their new exoskeleton becomes hard enough. In addition, they will not eat their old exoskeleton, but if you have other types of shrimp or snails in your tank, you can leave it there for them as it contains a high amount of calcium which will benefit them. There are a few common issues that can affect your bamboo shrimp. As I mentioned earlier, these shrimp are sensitive to fluctuations in water parameters. If there's a sudden shift, it can be fatal to them. When introducing new shrimp to your tank, drip acclimate them for at least 3 hours so that they get used to your water parameters. When doing partial water changes, replace anywhere from 10 to 20% because any more could potentially stress them out. Try to also match the water temperature you have in your tank. On a frequent basis, test your water using a water test kit to ensure that your ammonia and nitrite levels are at 0. Another potential issue that can affect the health of your shrimp is copper. Introducing any type of medication to your tank that contains trace amounts of copper will potentially poison and kill your shrimp. If you need to medicate any fish, remove them and place them in a quarantine tank. Once they have recovered, you can place them back into their main tank. If you plan on buying a used tank from someone, ask them if they treated any of their fish with copper. Copper can be hard to get rid of when it's introduced to a tank as the silicone can absorb some of it. The last issue that can potentially affect your bamboo shrimp is the introduction of other chemicals from your hands into your tank. Certain creams, colognes, or perfumes can affect your shrimp, And if you see them swimming erratically and you know your ammonia and nitrite levels are at 0, it could be because you introduced another chemical into your tank. At this point, a water change will be necessary. To avoid this from happening, wash your hands and forearms with soap before doing anything in your tank. If you'd like to learn more about what can cause your shrimp to die, check out the video in the top right corner. Bamboo shrimp are peaceful and can be kept with other shrimp, peaceful fish, and snails. It is important you do not keep them with any fish that can be aggressive towards them or that could potentially eat them. Bettas, dwarf gouramis, and cichlids should be avoided. Some good tank mates for bamboo shrimp are corydoras, autocinkless catfish, guppies, tetras, rasboras, bristlenose plecos, coolie loaches, ramshorn snails, mystery snails, nerite snails, neocaridina and caridina shrimp to name a few. In my 55-gallon, I keep them with butterfly rainbowfish, white cloud mountain minnows, harlequin rasboras, green neon rasboras, pond snails, panda corydoras, Borneo and tiger hillstream loaches, and vampire shrimp. I'd like to know if you currently keep bamboo shrimp, and if so, what type of tank mates do they have? Let me know in the comments below. Bamboo shrimp are truly amazing creatures and have many unique aspects when compared to other shrimp. As filter feeders, they will help keep your water column clean by feeding on any fine particles that are floating around. These gentle giants are undemanding, fascinating to watch, and a great addition to a community tank. If you found this video helpful and would like more shrimp keeping tips and advice, please consider subscribing. Stay tuned for more of my upcoming content, but in the meantime, check out any of the following videos. I'm Andy, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.